Thank you. Okay, we'll go straight to our next speaker. We'll speak on the missing link for inclusion in Africa. We have Rahul Parthe, the co-founder, chairman, and also the CTO of TECH5 to make this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me make sure. Good morning, everybody. I would like to first thank you, Kenya, for hosting ID for Africa. Then I would like to thank you, ID for Africa, to give me the opportunity to speak on something we truly believe, that is building an inclusive digital identity system. Right? This is particularly important, and if you can see from the topic, which we all believe, and I think we personally believe, is that there's a missing link to make an inclusive system for Africa. Let's start with why are we all here? We all know and understand that for a society to develop, and socio-economic success relies on the success of every individual participating in its progress. The word everybody is very important. That actually means inclusion is the pillar of a socio-economic development. You can call it inclusion, you can call it removing the barriers. And how do you enable that? You enable everybody through inclusion to participate. And to achieve that, the core is digital economics. For the digital economics is digital identity, or identity, basically. To make a successful system, we need to work towards building a future-proof, inclusive, decentralized digital identity system. To set the correct frame for discussion, we all know, if you just look at the society, there are three main parties who talk to or interact in order to conduct our daily lives. Starts with the user in the middle, which is us. Yeah? I consider myself as a common man. When I want to access any rights or services, I go to somebody who is providing those services. In this case, it will be the relying party or the verifier. Very simple example, I go say, my name is Rahul. The verifier says, great. Says who? Then I have to say, well, I have a credential that has been issued by a issuing authority, which can be either mandated to do so, or could be a self-assumed responsibility. This interaction has these three parties in the play, and in many contexts, this is called as the trust triangle. As you can imagine, in order for us to conduct our lives in society, these three parties have to efficiently connect, trust each other, and function. Now, each party in that triangle has certain expectations. So let's start with the issuers. The most important successful factor of any identity system is mass adoption. And it applies to everything, right from making the good soft drink to a nice car. If it is not adopted, it's useless. So for a system to be effective, it has to be mass adopted, which means everybody should feel confident in its reliability, in its security, and they should feel it's user-friendly, it's user-centric, which will encourage them to further go and keep using it. Each of these systems rely on some kind of governance, right? And the governance has to be easy. The governance behind the system has to be flexible, allows you to expand the systems easily, foster participation from multiple stakeholders. It cannot be use case specific. What all that is collected during an identity program is a sovereign asset. It's like a national asset, right? It has to be treated as with as much security from the external threats as well as the internal threats. So a system should be well designed to ensure that your sovereign asset is always protected. The next factor that actually enables a efficient and effective system is it should be cost effective, it should be sustainable, and then it should be easy to scale, deploy, and expand. And finally, it should be future-proof. People very loosely use this term. oh, it should be future-proof. And people start thinking, saying, we should build something that will survive for 30 years, 50 years. And I too personally believe that we should do that, but there has to be some practical considerations. What we have seen is that the world keeps evolving. Every 5 to 10 years, there is a new invention, new technology, new threats that are evolving. So we have to consider what's been developed in the other parts of the world, take it in here, and then build our systems such that, at least for the next 10 years, it is good enough. And then whatever the new trends come in, we are ready to adapt and change our systems. The user, which is at the center of the system, they have their own expectations from the system. First of all, it should be inclusive, irrespective of the person's status in the society, irrespective of their digital skills, their literacy, their physical abilities, they should be able to participate. A solution that is inclusive will again foster the adoption. It has to be trustworthy. When I transact with someone, if there is not enough trust and confidence, I am not going to use it. So a system that is built on the principles of reliability and security help build that trust, which means the users are going to keep using it. It has to be multi-purpose. We have all learned that use case specific IDs have a limited lifetime and a scope. Something that is designed for a particular specific purpose does not flourish. An identity system that you build can be used in multiple use cases, has a longer life, and will be adopted heavily. Sensitive topic. There could be natural disaster, unavailability of the central resources because of political situations. The system has to keep working. There are many scenarios where after for some reasons, if the system was not available, the identity system just crashed, and the civil people or the population was left behind with a system that doesn't work and was exploited or is exploited by the bad actors. So we should ensure that at least for a foreseeable time of such situations, the system keeps working. We are all talking about digital ID. The whole discussion around here is digital. But through our experience, we have seen is that there is certainly a certain percentage of the population who still do not, due to lack of understanding or education, do not believe in something that is digital. They want something tangible. They want to touch it. They want to feel it. They want to think it's there, it's real. It's a joke. Somebody says, your identity is in the cloud, and people have asked, what happens when the cloud goes away? So you have to basically be sure you can touch it. And last but not least, this is a very evolving expectation from the users that they have to be in control of their identity. What this means is that I should be able to decide who looks at my identity, what they can read from it, and I am able to at least understand, up to some extent, what are they going to do with my information. This is very important, yeah? And this is very important as the world is thinking about it. Finally, the relying parties who are actually providing these services also have their expectations. They want the systems to be flexible. This is driven either by their economic requirements, because this could be private enterprises, or they want to have a system, an identity system, that they could easily use in order to conduct their business and be out of trouble and make sure that the citizens are happy. It has to lower their reliability. This has happened time on time in many cases now, that the relying parties were the culprits for data breaches. In many countries, neither the citizen was at fault, neither the government was at fault. The people who were servicing and capturing the information did not have the governance or the systems in place, which led to them losing the data and actually costing not only the citizens, but the government also. So the system has to be in such design that the relying parties only keep information that they need and is secured, and their liability goes down. Finally, the relying parties always want to be in compliance with the government and the local regulations. They're always afraid. If they make a mistake, they're going to be fined. They're also afraid that if they lose data, they're going to be on the target. And so what they do is they try to check all the boxes, which could end up if a very difficult system for the citizen. So by fostering a a system that is simple in compliance and meeting the regulatory requirements, you actually make the citizen's life easy. So considering all these requirements, from the regulatory and administrative perspective, what it means is that at the end of the day, you need to design systems, and they have some technical requirements, looking at the infrastructure limitations, the usage of the identity. And what are these technical requirements? I mean, there are many, but I would like to focus on 3. Decentralized. This is the new notion. In the 80s, we all started with centralized identity, which means there is a central authority, and they're responsible for making sure that identity is issued, but also how it is used. Then came the federated identities like Facebook, Google, where you can go to Facebook, and that will allow you to log into something, which is very dangerous, because now Facebook knows what you're doing. Now the new trends in identity are decentralized identity. What this means is that the identity is issued at the central location. The identity is then given to the user. Now the user interacts with the relying party in a fully decentralized way. There are many benefits of a decentralized system. Number 1, since it is an interaction between the issuer and the relying party, the central system does not have to be online, which means your attack vector from internal or external threats is gone down. So your cybersecurity requirements are gone down. Since it works between a peer-to-peer, a person and a relying party, it can easily scale. You can have millions of transactions happening in parallel without having any dependence on the central system. And then the third one, it allows the people and the relying parties to transact with each other without having the central authorities to know what they're doing. The second aspect of this technical requirement is that we don't have to design these systems in a vacuum. This can be aligned with the evolving standards. There is a big movement in the, in the US and the UK, where people are working on these new evolving standards like W3C verifiable credentials, Trust over IPI Foundation. And the whole idea of this is, how do we make sure a decentralized identity is interoperable, standard, and can be used in a decentralized fashion? Biometrically enabled, this is the key, because by connecting the person to the user, biometric allows security and frictionless usage. The digital ID systems are becoming increasingly popular, but then in the context of Africa, there's a little bit of a concern. Africa, like many parts of the other world, has a digital divide where people do not have either digital phones or infrastructure, and this leads to less adoption. So the missing link for Africa is actually implementing a system that meets all these requirements with combination of open standards, and it's decentralized. To quickly summarize, or broad strokes, what a typical system would look like. First of all, we all know you should biometrically enroll everybody in the population, including the infants and every citizen. You do not have to lock yourself to traditional biometrics. Face recognition or facial biometrics, fingerprint, and iris are the core, but you can start leveraging new evolving technologies like voice and palm, low resolution, and the whole fingerprints with contactless fingerprint capture. This allows smartphones to act very effectively then depending on traditional sensors. Finally, you deduplicate, issue a credential that gets pushed to the people. This is a self-sovereign identity principles. This is where the world is going. That doesn't mean we have to do it today. Basically, we could adopt some of these principles where the identity is created and pushed to the people in their digital wallet or on a physical credential. A decentralized digital identity, if you see on the screen, is basically what we are proposing is something that can be implemented in an open wallet, which is the modern infrastructure of a digital ID. But that's not it. You can actually print it on a physical card, and this is your digital identity wallet that can be printed on a card, and you can walk around and use it in an offline manner to prove who you are with biometric verification. So biometrics play, again, a key role because they allow you to build that trust with security, frictionless usage. You can quickly see this video where the person is presenting a cryptograph, which is a digital identity either on a phone or a printed paper. And then using a smartphone, they're able to match the face stored in it and the fingerprint stored in it. So just to recap, what it allows is the issuer to issue credentials centrally, but foster the decentralized verification. This is the most important aspect of this approach. The users can securely prove who they are using their biometric binding, without sacrificing privacy and security, which is, again, very important from a data protection perspective. And finally, the relying parties are also able to biometrically connect the dots and prove the identity is from the person and serve them. To sum up, there are all these aspects that you can see on the screen that are required by the system, but the blue ones are the ones that are essential, and inclusion, decentralized, and biometrically enabled are something that you should take with you. And thank you for letting me present.
Oh, thank you very much, Rahul. Just wait. Should we have maybe one question? We still have some 3 minutes within the time. Is there any question? I can't see any hand. Okay, there's someone in front. Give him the...
Let me get to the last slide.
Yes, if I may ask,
Listen.
you said that this identity, which is actually trying to include everything and make the work easier, how will it be possible now to be made in Africa, since most of our nations are not in advanced technological perspective?
I did not see the person, but I would refer, can you hear me? It's all right, okay. Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, how can we do it in Africa today, right? And this is where I think my main message is that we do not have to wait for 5 to 10 years. As the presentation in the previous talk talked about that you already have some assets in terms of identity systems. There are very easy ways to quickly move on with the solutions or actually enhance them. And the beauty of new biometric systems and credentials is that they can be done using smartphones. So you do not have to rely on heavy infrastructure. So if you are flexible and if you follow the new evolving standards, you can start enrolling populations using smartphones, with contactless fingerprint captures, face, even voice, and palm for the matter of fact, and then start to augment your databases to make it inclusive in terms of biometrics. And from the technology perspective to deploy this is, again, by design, it is made simple enough that it can plug in into your existing, let's say, ecosystems. For example, this system is integrated in MOSIP, if you have already heard it. Then it can be a component that can be part of OSHA, where you have a credential, and you can overnight, and I can be bold enough to say, issue hundreds of millions of credentials overnight. Of course, this can be then sent over to the phone, or can be printed on a paper and laminated in a plastic, laminated, right? So it can be printed. So in reality, in practicality, you could have the whole nation with a digital identity in a matter of weeks, which means now everybody has a credential. For the verification part of it, just have a government app, let them download it. Everybody who's in the relying party can then start verifying their credentials. So again, there are very easy ways to bridge that gap till we build a very mature system. And again, if you're curious to understand what that could be and how our experience could help, happy to answer those in our booth and discuss in detail. I would really welcome very exciting and good conversations.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Right? Is it right?
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you very much.